All righty, we're going to go ahead and get started with, we'll talk to this guy in a second. But just to kind of just start out, and today we are talking about some of the most honestly interesting, most important stuff that anybody can need if they're trying to raise capital, investor relations, and how to find more investors. But before we get into that, I wanted to share something. And Manuj, I'll share this with you as well, because I just think it's awesome, even though it is completely goofy.
Yeah.
I just got back from the Olympics. So I just got my Olympic branded swatch that I'm rocking. And it was one of the most amazing things to, just see the top players and games. I saw women's Canadian basketball. They did get beat by Kenya. So I'm sorry, apparently y'all are all over the hockey. We'll find out in 2 years, but basketball, it was tough for the Canadians. But I did see the men's US team, and they were like the Harlem Globetrotters. Just alley-oops, dunks, cross-court passes, behind-the-back passes. It was so much fun to watch. Besides that, went and saw the BMX bike, like they were in a jump park.
Mm-hmm.
Saw the gold medal of that. It was so much fun. But Manuj, am I saying it right? It's Manuj.
Manuj is perfect. It's perfect. Thank you.
I can totally butcher your name, but
for sure. You wouldn't believe the things I've heard. Actually, I have a story for that. If you want me to tell it before, or it'll take away from the conversation.
Do, but first I have some really horrible jokes for you.
Okay.
I'm a dad, so
yes, likewise.
Can't wait to learn all about your little baby. All right. Running an investor relations firm must be a bit like fishing, except instead of bait, you've got pitch decks. And instead of fishing, you're actually just reeling in investors. But hopefully, none of those get away.
That sucked. Yes, that was a bad joke.
They're really bad.
Horrible. That was really bad, yes.
Yes. So you help connect investors with opportunities. You must have the best phone book in town. Everybody raising capital wants to take your calls. No investors want to ever hear from you.
That's pretty sums it up. I think we're done for the day, aren't we?
Our job is done. It was great talking to everybody.
Thank you.
We're out. All right. Last really horrible dad joke, and then I actually want to hear all about you and your kids as well. Your job involves convincing people to part with their money, but it's like being a magician, but you're not making it disappear. You're actually multiplying that cash. That was just not funny, but still.
It's an interesting point. Now, given that you're a securities lawyer by trade, there's a whole lot of caveats and stars and that statement that have to be put in, and we can get into that in the conversation.
Yeah, it's just disclaimer. You may or may not make money. You may or may not lose everything. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to bring good opportunities to people. And Manuj, that is exactly what you do as well. So please share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get way deeper into your firm, what you do, and how you help people raise capital.
I appreciate it. And Nate, once again, thank you so much for this opportunity. We connect with each other at these conferences regularly, and it's a real privilege to be on this live cast with you. So my name is Manuj Grover. I'm one of the co-founders of Public Yield Capital. Essentially, tagline is we're an investor marketing platform, and a big part of our business today is providing investor outreach, where we help support the investor journey so that our clients have a much more successful capital raise, and primarily focused in crowdfunding. Now myself, I've been doing this since 2020. I've been in the crowdfunding business since 2016. Um, as you can see from my background, I got Montreal Canadiens paraphernalia. So I'm born in Montreal. I currently live in Toronto. I'm a family of Indian descent. I mean, from India, my family of entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurship has been in my upbringing. My family was the largest dollar store chain before the KKR group supported Dollarama, took over the market, and Walmart came to Canada. From there, my dad pivoted to manufacturing knockoff perfumes.
Okay, that's just awesome.
I actually have a prop for you. I'm going to show you. So basically, because we used to sell perfumes in our store, my dad thought, hey, this is high margin. I don't want to do retail anymore because that's basically dying off. Let's get into manufacturing. And he actually made a perfume named after me. Well, there we go. See,
I knew your stink.
Yes. And it was my worst seller. Nobody wants to wear Eau de Manuj. Go figure. So he started that in 95. Unfortunately, at the age of 49, he passed away. And I, at the age of 18, took over the family business. For me, I thought that was my legacy from my dad. That's something that he, because we're traditional basically Eastern culture family. My mom primarily worked from home, stayed home. But then as my dad got sick, started supporting him in running the business. And when he passed, basically, I felt that it was my responsibility as the eldest of one younger sister to stand up and start putting my share in to take care of the family. So at the age of 18, I started working full-time in our perfume business. We almost went out of business the first year because I had no clue of what I was doing. So you learn about business in school. Reality is completely different.
And then being an entrepreneur and doing your own thing and having own controls, that's a whole different world as well.
Like my entire status was I had to get good grades and I wanted to pick up girls. That was pretty much my life till that point. Now I have to figure out how to pay rent, mortgage, expenses. We had half our employee base left. So it was a learning by fire, going from, let's say, the fry pan into the fire and back. And I could fortunately say a few years later, I didn't go out of business. I sold my business to my client.
Okay,
we
that's
took whatever
awesome.
We had.
They're like, you smell so good. I actually want your entire stock of stink.
It was more that it was more threatening in that sense. It's like, if you don't do it, we'll go out of business. So it was more of a defensive position. And to be honest with you, I'm proud of that. Like, recognizing, shit, I'm not really good at this. Right? Like, I have no clue why we're not making any money. I don't. And the thing is that when you lose a parent, there's a huge trust gap. We try to look at our other family members or people around you to fill in that gap. And because business is vicious, I had a trust gap. So looking at that specific opportunity, saying, okay, I have no clue how to grow this business more. This is an opportunity to get some money and then pivot. Got it. And I think that's what life's all about, is you take what life gives you and then figure out what the next steps are. If you can move forward with what you're doing, great. If you can't, then you need to learn how to change fast, or else you will not grow, you will not survive. So in 2001, before September 11th happened, my business was bought up by my US client based in Jersey. I bought my first house. So I was 22 years old, bought my first house. My mom went back to school. My sister just started, I was just ending high school. And I now realized, okay, what do I do next? And I wanted to get into the capital markets. I watched, what was the movie, Wall Street with Charlie Sheen and Michael Douglas.
I remember when I was growing up, one of the most impactful lessons I got from my dad was, if you want to make the money, learn to work with the money and start working around the money. And that's kind of what got me to be a stockbroker, to be a securities attorney. That was kind of the guide that I always had, is, hey, learn how to work with money. It sounds like you got a similar light bulb.
Well, sort of. It's because actually, unfortunately, at that time, my dad wasn't there, right? And now what I thought was his legacy is gone. So I figured, okay, what's my next move? Where do I pivot from here? And when I watched that movie, it's like, that looks cool. I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to be a corporate raider. But
Right.
this, the deal making aspect of it, like shaking hands, making deals, transferring money, the technicalities, I found a bigger lure to it. So the next best thing I knew, my life insurance agent said, "Hey, why don't you become a life insurance? That's capital markets." So I did. I'm 22 years old, working full time as a life insurance agent. Not really impressive with the ladies because it's not a sexy job. I can make life insurance sound sexy, but it truly it isn't. It isn't. It is a very basic financial product. But I learned a lot. I learned that I also suck at selling life insurance. That's the number one lesson I learned because I didn't have the patience for it. I had a story of losing my father, how life insurance did help us when I was younger. But apart from that, I didn't have the patience of thinking long term. I was in my 20s. So did that for 6 years. I met my wife online, actually, and pre-Facebook. So it was pretty like a MSN and all that crap. And she lived in Toronto. So
Okay.
as our relationship blossomed, realized if I do want to grow, I need to move from Montreal to Toronto, which I did. And I've been here for 15 years.
Awesome.
And
You
I
got
got
some kids. How old
I've
are
got
they?
two kids. I got a 14-year-old daughter who's 5'7" and a
Okay.
10-year little munchkin. So the munchkin little one looks like my little baby. The older one, who's 14 now and going to high school, looks like a grown woman. And I have just acquired a BB gun because I think it is a good, because Canada, we can't just carry guns around. So basically, BB gun looks it's intimidating enough, and hopefully the other person doesn't have a gun.
And you know what? I'm down here in Texas, so you expect everybody to have a gun
Yeah,
because that's just the way it
it is.
works. So it sounds like you took a huge left turn, and to kind of get into it, now you have founded and you're running an investor relations firm. How long have you been doing that?
So interesting enough, the investor relations part, like I've had this firm since 2020. So to answer that exact question, about 4 years.
Okay.
But we started as an investor marketing company,
Right.
primarily focused on public companies. My business partner has been in the business for 10 years. I came in to build a business and do sales, and we were supporting public companies in their communication strategy. And this is like just
Okay.
before COVID happening, right?
A
This
great
was
time to start a business.
sorry, during 2019. Yeah, during COVID, sorry, my bad. During COVID, I was working for my business partner, and because of the shit that went down, we basically I became partners with him and started to expand. So in 2020 was when we were trying to grow business. And you're 100% right. But interesting enough, because everybody was at home and nobody was going out traditional road shows, we're not working. Slowly, the momentum of online marketing and online like what we're doing right now, it
Okay.
grew during COVID. However, what was happening was because the capital markets are high margins, you can make good money in the business. It's a very niche, unique business. Everybody who was doing any form of digital marketing was pivoting into the industry.
Right.
So now we were trying to survive, pivoted to crowdfunding because that business, so the public markets shut down, the private markets and crowdfunding was still running. So we were able to pivot to that and focus the same tactics to that side, but competition started growing. So we took a step back and trying to figure out, okay, where is there a gap? And the mantra in digital marketing is the concept that more touch points you have with a particular target, the more likely you'll get a binary yes or no response.
Right.
So meaning that, and that's good if you get a no. Because if you have a truth quickly, no quickly, then you don't waste your money on those targets. Then you go to other potential sources of leads, or the leads that you've generated, the ones are still interested. Then you connect with them, follow them, nurture them, and bring them down the funnel. That's basically how most fundamental, most e-commerce.
Right.
And so because we're not selling a widget, like I'm not selling something from Amazon, like something like Gatorade or business cards, or like I just bought these Beats headset.
You're selling dreams. That's one of the best things to sell.
Which is true, but it's complicated. And it's not even complicated about selling the dream itself. It is also because it's such a technical, securities. So filling out a subdoc. I didn't even know what a subdoc was until I got into the business, right? I did like know what these financial terms are, safe harbor, all these nuances of this specific business. I didn't understand till I immersed myself into it. So imagine an average Joe who's not in this business, and all of a sudden they're looking at these documents. It's overwhelming. It's holy shit. Please excuse my language. What am I supposed to do? And so the whole essence about how our business pivoted was realize there's a gap in the market, and these people who have shown interest in somebody else's dream, I was talking about selling dreams, need to have their hand held because they need the support. They have questions. And even if you look at Amazon, which is the Goliath in the e-commerce business, they now even provide customer support. So, but if you reach out for a particular product, before they didn't, you couldn't even talk to anybody. But then they realized that it'll promote more loyalty, more transactions, and as a result, you feel more confident in the entity you're dealing with. So that was the mantra or the mindset we had, is that if a person has any questions and they can't talk to anybody, they won't trust them. Because no matter what, human beings need to communicate with other human beings.
Okay. So as we're getting more into kind of what your business does and how you accomplish it, actually, could you, because a lot of people don't understand what a investor relations firm is, kind of what is your service?
Okay. So essentially, companies, let's say specifically in the crowdfunding space, hire us to be basically a investor support, customer support part of their marketing team.
Okay.
So when a company is using digital marketing to generate hype and eyeballs and excitement about their opportunity, they'll generate leads. Permanent leads are name, they'll have some contact information of those people. So my team's responsibility is to take that information and reach out to them. Or if that person who clicked for more information has any questions, answer the question they may have. They could call in, they could send us an email. So we are part of the marketing and outreach team of every issuer. Those are issuing securities, and basically to learn about the client's business the best we can, and basically answer any potential questions an investor may have about the opportunity, and hopefully to do it in a way that it's to their satisfaction, that would lead them to potentially invest. Now, in the beginning, during your intro dad jokes, you were referring to selling securities. The whole caveat thing I mentioned was we don't sell securities.
I think that is one of the most important things to come across. You are there to support it. You are there helping, but that's really what differentiates the investor relations firm from that broker dealer, that they're getting paid a commission very specifically to go sell and pitch an investment.
Exactly. So, and broker dealers, they're licensed. So they're under government regulatory supervision, as well as they're required to understand the deal and give their opinion based on the quality of the deal. Now, my team, we're not licensed. We're not qualified to tell your opinion based on the particular investor's financial situation to see, is there a fit? We're not qualified to do that. So what we do is provide the information that they need, that they ask for, and be available to answer any questions they may have. And if there's questions we can't answer, then we go back to the Securities Council, go back to the company and say, hey, these are the questions that the investors are asking. Please provide us more information we can forward to them. And we try our best. Now, if they do have a question regarding the validity, the fit, or the suitability of that potential transaction, we always tell them, and this is a requirement, and all my representatives are trained to say, please speak with your securities lawyer and your financial advisor. They're the only two entities that should be qualified enough to give you the information you need to validate if this is a suitable transaction for you. Okay. We can just provide you what publicly is available to everyone, and basically, hopefully, answer the questions that they may have.
And to kind of clarify this and to, again, differentiate, you can go hire a broker dealer, pay a commission. they'll go out and sell. But if I'm issuing a investment, I'm qualifying under, they call it the issuer exemption, that basically says I'm not getting paid any commissions or any compensation to sell the investment, but I can actually sell. In this case, you're not pitching and soliciting, but you are providing the information about the investment, about the structure, about the process. So you're still creating that engagement. You're just not really saying, and invest now.
Pretty much. What big, I think, value prop is that in any transaction, there has to be a transfer of trust, right?
Okay.
And so our objective is to build that trust with that audience and basically be available to them and to let them know that they're actual real people here. This is an actual legitimate business, and that we will do our best to answer any question to satisfaction. And at that point, that investor decides. If they feel the information we've provided to them and the opportunity fits their risk profile or it's a suitable investment for them, then wonderful. So once that part is done and they actually go through the transaction portion, my team is also there for providing support to how to fill out paperwork. Like we don't tell them what to put in the information in, but you can answer questions if they ask, what's a unit? Why do I have to give my social security number?
Okay.
And so on and so forth. So what that becomes then is customer service, essentially.
Got it.
And in the marketing world, you can bring as many horse, like you bring the horse to water.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't drink, then it's all for naught. So and how we bring that to our scope is that the marketing team can generate as many leads as possible, fill up the funnel, push people by nurturing them and sending them emails, information to the platform where the transaction will happen. But if they have any question or any obstacle or hindrance that doesn't get addressed, then basically all that investment in marketing is gone for naught. And so our value proposition then is there. So how can we help support that investor's journey and make sure that they're fully satisfied, and hopefully the decision for them after that is yes. And then after they have done all the paperwork, if sometimes people forget to send their money, so we also come on board and do all the follow-up, say, hey, thank you very much for investing. Your funds are outstanding. Is there any way we can help you? Any more information you need so you can complete the transaction? And so that's pretty much the journey and support we provide our clients.
I think you brought up something that also is really important, is a differentiation between marketing, which brings people to the table, but it doesn't get the people, signing on the dotted line. That is where the sales happen. Well, a lot of the sales with crowdfunding, it's online where there's not really that sale process, but there are still questions.
Yes.
People still need support. They need the information. They don't necessarily want to read 100 pages. They want to say, hey, I've got this overriding question. Could you please answer it rather than me spending the next 2 hours reading? And is that really where the investor relations comes into play?
Yeah. If you change the word investor to customer relations, basically the same thing. So you've hit the nail on the head.
Okay, got it. So that's, could you tell me a little bit more, so you're not getting paid a commission, but you're still helping people with the investment processing. You're not getting that commission, but how do you make money? Like if I was raising capital, I just want support because my God, I hate being on the phone. How does it working with you?
So this was also a journey in itself. Originally, when we started this service, we were a retainer based. So you pay us monthly and I have my team set up to do the outreach, and whatever happened. But what we realized was, and you see it every day with your clients, that it's not a linear flow in crowdfunding or even capital raising. There's hiccups, there's starts and stops, there's the SEC. There's so many factors come into play where a transaction's going, then it stops for whatever reason. And there has to be a pivot or an adjustment, and they continue. So what we did was we changed from being a retainer based that you just pay us monthly to a credit based model, meaning that as an issuer, you would buy credits from us, and use them as you need. The credits will last for 12 months because per the exemptions, most transactions are eligible for the funds that they want to raise for about a 12-month period. So let's say we started today and we basically reached out to 100 leads that you offered us, and that used up 60 credits. You bought 1,000, you used up 60. Now for the next month, you have 940 left.
Okay. So it's
And we
more
just
of a
keep money.
per phone call. There's some fee attached to
Yeah.
that.
There's a credit. So the more credits you buy, cheaper per credit cost. And there's a formula for this. It's gets very it's very technical on how what we define as a call effort, voicemail left, response, turnaround. So every single thing we do of work on a day-to-day basis for our clients, there's a credit value to it. So the whole idea, and then we provide full reporting of how many calls were made, how many people we spoke to, how many voicemails we did, how many emails went, how many. So every action we take is recorded. So as a result, the way the formulation works is that you use up these credits and then they roll over. Let's say after 3 months, the SEC comes with a letter saying, "Oh, you have to refile for whatever reason." Say there's a discrepancy in the information provided, you have to put this on hold. We stop. The credits don't you don't keep on paying us. You've already paid us for credits, but the credits are still valid till you restart.
Okay.
So that allows us to go with the ebbs and flows of campaigns. Like when a client just starts, usually in the first few weeks, there's no leads. So if you were paying us a retainer, we're being paid to do nothing.
Okay.
But because you've bought credits, the moment we start doing outreach, we're now earning the funds that you paid us for those credits.
So if I can, and I'm still really trying to emphasize for people why it makes sense. I'm running a crowdfunding campaign. I have my investment online. I know how to drive traffic. I'm hiring a marketing agency. They're getting to my investment. Maybe they understand, maybe they have questions. And rather than me picking up the phone and talking to everybody, that's really where your services come into play to fill that gap.
You are a business owner. Not only now you're getting involved in raising capital to grow your business, you likely are running your business on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
If I'm wearing a hat right now, but if you're wearing multiple different hats, basically you're not efficient in doing all your work. So you're not be able to grow your business. You have to answer investor questions. And most of the clients that we have are small, medium businesses. They're looking to scale, looking to grow. So the advantage of bringing us board is we already have the technology. We already have the infrastructure. We have a trained team. Like my team have worked on the public side for many, many years. So they understand the nuances of communications under the umbrella of the SEC and the capital markets. So we brought them on to the crowdfunding world, and through their season, they know what they should or should not say. And as a result, we can get up and running. If a client hires us today, 2 weeks, we're up and running. At the end of the day, if we do our job well, we become redundant, meaning that our services should be always internal to the company. They should have their own IR team. That's the most cost-effective way of doing it. But if they don't have the resources at that time and they don't have the infrastructure, we become a great partner that can help them scale and basically provide them data on their marketing efforts so they can optimize and execute much better.
Got it.
And then after a campaign's over, you still have people that have questions about when do I receive my shares or anything that a company has stated during a campaign. There may be ongoing lingering questions, transfer agent issues. Then we basically become a triage department. But you have questions for a specific thing, we forward them to the triage team. If there's a specific question regarding their shares, okay, legal team. So that we can still provide support after the campaign's over because guaranteed they're lingering questions.
Do you have any recommendations for people of kind of best practices? Somebody has invested, that's already taken place. Like what kind of communications should be going back to those investors?
Consistency is the number one thing. You want to go to the gym, you want to lose weight, anything you do, the more consistent you are and the most focused you are, the better it is. So best practices, limit the channels of communication. meaning
Okay.
that like what we focus is on phone and email. Why? Phone brings the personal touch. Email is traceable and documentable.
Right.
Now we have individuals that are on Discord, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS. Those are great means of reaching out. But if you want to communicate in a compliant manner that doesn't get you into shit with the SEC, make sure every form of communication is traceable and documentable, because sometimes human beings are emotional. And for whatever reason, they may have woken up the wrong side, got out of bed, back pain, they speaking to me per se, and got pissed off. I may have said something and pissed them off. Now they're angry and they want to vent it on the company and they send nasty emails. They're sending email to their lawyer, the SEC or whatnot. Things like this have happened. But if you're communicating, and for example, our calls are all recorded, we log everything. So if there's ever an issue, you can go back to the documentation and say, hey, this is what happened. And if we were in the wrong, now we have a template to work on to improve. But if it's not our fault and it's not the company's fault, it was just an upset investor. No, we have everything's documented, and now you can actually remedy the situation. So to go back to your question is controlled, precise, control your amount of channels, and be consistent on it. You're going to say we're going to get back to people within 48 hours, get back to them in 48 hours. If you don't have the answer to their question, like this is something I learned. So after going back to my story, after I met my wife and moved to Toronto, I went from life insurance business into the mortgage business. And when I first started, clients, because they're buying their first homes, it's something very important to them, I would not call them back till I had an answer. And a elderly real estate agent and told me this is like, Manuj, even if you don't have an answer for them right now, make sure you're regularly communicating with themselves, because when people don't know something, they come up with their own answers to the questions, and mostly they're the worst. They think about the worst thing could possibly happen. So as a result, and then now, not only are you trying to remedy that nightmare, you're now trying to rebuild a relationship, because now they don't trust you anymore, because in their own minds, they come up with a worst case scenario. So as a result, if a issuer says we're going to return your call within 48 hours, return in 48 hours. If there's a question,
I will say, no, I was just going to say, and when people do get upset, and when people do start complaining and reaching out to their lawyer, reaching out to the SEC, that's where audits, investigations, it always comes from somebody that is angry and complaining.
Yes.
So what you're saying with the responsiveness and do what you say you're going to do is some of the, honestly, the most important things, staying out of harm's way.
Furthermore, it's very basic. Like whatever I've stated is not rocket science. It's just a lot of hard work. And I think that's where we bring value, is that, like you were saying earlier, let's say you were an issuer, you're doing the raise, you're running your business, and you have so many irons in the fire. Our value is we can just come in, take that burden off of you, be in a controlled, organized manner, provide you confidence that we know what the hell we're doing, so that you're comfortable to move forward with your transaction, and then hopefully you get the results you're looking for.
So I wonder, and I don't know if you keep up with these statistics, like if I'm raising $1 million, I have my expense on the marketing side. That's anywhere from 5 to 15%, maybe averages out about 10% ish. Have you run those statistics on your side about what it costs or about what it takes to raise $1 million?
So most of the clients that work with us are not raising $1 million. They use the 5 million of the CF exemption. That's the
fair enough.
Because we're an additional cost to your marketing, so it just brings the numbers average down. What we have found for what people pay us, we have helped improve, or on average, we've shown that we have helped improve by 30%.
Okay.
Now, like we have clients that have paid for a campaign have paid up to, let's say, $50,000 for our services for a year. And we have, for example, one recent client They just closed their CF campaign. What we were able to measure is like, we don't, so I can't say to you, oh, this investor only invested because we spoke to them, because we don't know what their mindset is. They may have still invested, but we just don't know, right? And it's not a question we can ask. So what we track is every lead that we have connected with, we log when we connected with them, how many times we connected with them. And then depending on the platform, which let's say Dealmaker, Dalmore, Issuance, Core Connects, DigiShares, we get the access to their cap table at the end. So then we do a cross-reference. Okay, we spoke to Nate Dodson, and we saw, oh, he actually invested. So that is one of the metrics we can say of funds supported. We don't say capital raised, funds supported, because that we're supporting. And we've been fortunate enough in the last 3-4 transactions, we've been close to 30 to 40%, meaning 30 to 40% of the funds raised, my team has spoken to them.
That's huge. Well, congratulations. And that does seem like it really starts to move the needle, because anybody that's raised capital through crowdfunding or through like a general solicitation marketing, those costs can be quite a bit. So we're actually talking about lowering those costs.
Another way of lowering costs, and the thing, this was just organically realize the value you provide. And when I spoke in the beginning, I referred to reach the yes or no.
Mm.
If, like I said, the actual monetary value that you measure and see right away is when during an end of a campaign, you want to push money through the door. We follow up with all the people who are not finished the paperwork or funds are outstanding. You could actually see money coming in.
Right.
But usually in the beginning of a campaign, when a person's leads just being generated through the marketing team, marketing efforts, when we reach out to these investors, we also try to ascertain the quality of that lead. Give me an example. We had one client that we reached out on their behalf, and of the 60 leads, only 2 spoke English. So now you're doing a marketing effort in English in the continental United States, and the audience that's actually clicking on it doesn't speak the language. So you assume, okay, they don't understand what's going on. Now, fortunately enough, they speak Spanish. We had a team member that spoke Spanish, and we ascertained that they had no clue what they clicked on. So now we can take that information, go back to the marketing team and the issuer and say, hey, there's something wrong here. You need to fix this. So without that information, like you would never, the issuer would never know. And the marketing team would then continue reaching out to those specific channels and then wondering why we're not getting results. So one of the value adds of actually having a human being talk to somebody is actually assigning, okay, are these the type of leads that you need? Are they the correct quality of leads? So that likelihood, like during the campaign, you have more success at the end. So that's where another way we help in optimizing and improving cash management of the media budget, because we add in an extra touch point, and therefore with the data we bring in can help optimize the campaign moving forward.
Got it. In terms of, and this is always a concern, and I frankly haven't asked you this before, there's always a concern of, is it somebody that is foreign, is offshore, that isn't communicating as well as, say, somebody that's in a call center in Canada or in the United States? I don't know. I never asked you. Are you working with an offshore, onshore? No. Like, how does that work?
I say this jokingly. The only thing Indian, because there are a lot of Indian call centers, of my team is me. That's my descent. That's it. Everyone on my team's either based in the US or Canada. Okay. And I personally believe that's really, really important. Like, for example, I talked about my background that's right here, and we mentioned about hockey, right? I'm wearing a Montreal Expos cap because I love baseball. I was at their last game. So when you're speaking to somebody and the Super Bowl is happening and they can relate to you, it's much more comforting, especially when you're trying to do like a $500 to $1,000 transaction, right? Because the opportunity cost of doing these investments is, what if my dishwasher breaks, or I had an accident and there's a crack in my axle? Those are hundreds of dollars, whatever the car repair would be. Those are hundreds of dollars, and you're investing in the security, which is an opportunity cost to invest in something you're doing on a day-to-day basis in your life. These are the audience we're speaking with. And a matter of fact, for anywhere in the world, if you speak to somebody who sounds like you and understands the nuances about yourself and your culture, let's be calling somebody from in LA or New Orleans or somebody in New York, like it makes a big impact in building that trust.
Makes sense. When you reach out, do the investors think that they're talking to the company, or do they know that you're a third party that is helping out?
We only represent us. We don't promote our firm, so they don't know that we're public capital. We are hired as subcontractors by the issuer, so we become part of the marketing team. So any communication is the name of the issuer. When we receive calls from us, the caller ID would say, let's say Crowdfunding Lawyers is our client. It would say Crowdfunding Lawyers. We would represent ourselves as Crowdfunding as an extension of their outreach team, and that's it.
Okay. Question for you comes up all the time in terms of, and appreciate that you say most of the deals that you work with, they're raising $5 million. That is the crowdfunding cap for this type of an investment. How many of those do you see really being successful? And do you even keep up with it?
No, actually, when we were starting the marketing business, originally just doing the lead gen part, we always keep track of what goes well because everybody prides themselves on the deals that really go well and tries to hide from the ones that don't. Right. We've been fortunate recently that a lot of our campaigns have done really, really well. But I would still say overall, maybe 25% of the deals that we work on fulfill the funding they want to get. And the rest, and there are multiple factors, could be a change in their operations, market conditions, budget. The biggest factor I would say in crowdfunding specifically is the media budget that impacts the campaign. It's not cheap raising capital, especially when you're trying to raise capital from people you don't know. You're a sports fan. I'm a sports fan. I grew up Montreal Canadiens, Montreal Expos. It's a tribal following. For me, my bond to the sports team started with my dad. I lost him at his young age. So many of the moments, the nostalgic moments that keep me as a tribal follower for the Montreal Canadiens is what I experienced going to games with my dad or watching him on TV as a family. Mm-hmm. That took years to build. Now imagine you're in crowdfunding where you're trying to raise capital to grow your brand and grow your business, and you're trying to compress what normally e-commerce businesses do in 3 years into a 6-month period, right? That's not cheap. No. So many factors that come into play. Your strategies come into play, your infrastructure come into play, and sometimes you just got to get lucky.
So I like to encourage people that the time to start marketing is now. I don't care when you need the capital, the longer you have to build that awareness, to create that network, to create the brand, really does make the capital raise not only easier, but cheaper to raise the capital market to as well.
For sure. And like, for example, as mentioned earlier, like we have clients that are doing multiple raises, right? They hire us, they do well on their first raise, and we continue with them on consecutive raises. Once you've built that branding infrastructure in your first raise, you now have an audience that is engaged. They may have not all invested right away, but in subsequent raises, you don't have to get those leads from scratch. You already had them when you did the first time. So you go back to them. It's like, hey, you didn't invest this time. Look, we're doing another raise. Here's the milestones you've hit. Please give us a chance this time. So,
and I think you nailed it with the engagement, like creating that relationship with an investor rather than just like cast the net out and hope that you catch a few.
100%. And the same thing like for public companies, right? Or in any business, people, it's like a bird in hand is better than two in the bush. So when I was just doing purely sales for others, my goal was always to get new clients. But the truth of the matter is, if you service an existing client well, they will spend more with you. If you have an existing investor that's been communicated to, treated well, they may not invest today, but tomorrow, as you build your trust with them, they will part with their money with yourselves. And we are part of that infrastructure and that engine.
I love it.
We try to do the best we can.
Well, do you have any final thoughts? We've gone through quite a bit, and I know that you're sharing something that, frankly, people don't know existed out there to help with these capital raises. But do you have any final thoughts that you'd really like to share with people before we get back to our crazy days?
Capital raising is hard work.
It is work.
And I said this at the crowdfunding conference, is that like my seed investor is my mom in my business. When I started my own, COVID happened. My mom was the one who took money out of her credit card to me to start my business because she trusts me. So the heart of the whole thing is that how can you build that trust with the people you don't know? And that takes time. And we are here to support that. We're here to allow you to build your business and hopefully succeed together. That's been my summary for.
Absolutely love it. Manuj, your company, what's your website? How does anybody get a hold of you?
You can basically go on our website and there's a click for booking a meeting. The firm is called Public Yield Capital. So the website is Public Yield, so PUBLICYIELD.capital. And my email is my first name, which is manuj@publicyield.capital. So please reach out, book a meeting. It would be my pleasure to have a conversation, and hopefully we can be of assistance.
Love it. And really want to emphasize one of the most important things. It's not a cost, it's a cost savings, really, when it comes to that marketing budget. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Coastal Bends, always appreciate you hopping on. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, now's the time to pipe up. Otherwise, we covered everything wonderfully. And I truly appreciate you joining, Manuj.
Thank you, Nate. I really do appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for your audience to listen to my rant.
A wonderful rant, and one of the most important things when it really comes down to budgeting, raising capital. It's not easy. It's not cheap. Here's actually one way to save some money.
Awesome.
Any energy investments lately? How's this oil and gas been doing for you?
For me specifically?
What kind of deals have you been representing with your firm lately?
So we're doing a lot of, interesting enough, recently a lot of AI firms we're working with. Early this year, we had many EV clients, and that market globally, like on a macro level, public and private, is soft right now because a lot of the EV companies are not doing as well. We've had biotech, some technology, food and beverage, but recently what we noticed is a big jump in the actually, interesting enough, talking about energy, we have one client we just signed on yesterday, and they're building solar panels in Southeast Asia. So they're based out of here. They have contracts with the local governments there to supplement, as you can appreciate, billions of people living in that region, tons of demand of energy, and they have governmental contracts to fulfill the gap that they need. So that's one recent client that we'll be launching shortly. So we've been working with companies across the spectrum, but this is what the trend's been: AI, One Energy, and a lot of EV companies.
Absolutely love it. Well, hopefully we've got some good contacts for you. Your information is in chat, so if anybody wants to reach out, Manuj, he's a good guy. He may be hiding that bald head right there. He may be getting a little bit
strategic because, as you can see, my head is shiny. So, my God. So what happens is that when I'm on these video calls, the light flares, it blinds everybody. So I figured, you know what? Let's wear a black hat that absorbs the light so you can actually see my face. So it's a face only a mother could love, but at least, you know what? At least hopefully they like it.
Well, congrats on building something amazing. And frankly, there's not too many firms that are out there providing your service. I got to imagine it's a little bit of a blue ocean there, just in terms of there's not a ton of competition.
There isn't, But thing is that it's still hard, because thing is that most people would say, we'll do it ourselves, right? So, which is fine, and I think that's an ideal scenario. You do it yourself. But for those who need the help, we're there.
And I think a big component, you mentioned it, a lot of your clients are raising $5 million, which means they're spending a lot more on marketing. They're driving a lot more traffic. They need that extra level of support as well.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you for joining today. Really appreciate you. And thank you everybody else for making it today.